Also good news on the COVID restriction front is that the Queensland border is going to open. It'll be opening on Monday to Greater Sydney, and this is way too late, but an obvious relief towards the economy of Queensland and, more importantly, the people who'd like to be able to reconnect with their fellow Australians because, you know, we're supposed to be a free country. You remember? What is it? United, free, all in one, all of that business? Well, as you know, something that has been consistently and constantly lied to about the people of Queensland, and we called this out all the way through last year, but yes, that government won the election. But I told you all the way through that no matter how many times the Premier would like to pretend that somehow a Queensland-only economy would be perfectly fine, it's not the case. This was the garbage that she was feeding in the lead-up to the election, of course, of which she absolutely brained.
I want Queenslanders to get out and about and explore Queensland.
But guess what? Despite the fact that, I went to the Sunshine Coast and it was really busy, the actual cost of border closures, and the most recent border closures in particular over the summer, were the ones that were added to the multiple ones which have happened all year. You know this if, God forbid, you're a small business, but you should know this if you don't care about the people who own business, about the reality of what these decisions result in. Here's some of the costs that have happened thus far. According to a variety of groups that we've sourced this from today, $16.7 million a day is what the economy was losing when you lock out the biggest city in the country, that being Sydney, or the rest of the country if there's issues like Victoria. The Gold Coast economy alone, apparently about $1.2 billion has disappeared, and that is just in the summer lockdowns. As for the statewide lockdown, that's $7 billion that went out the door just as the result of the Queensland closure. Now, yes, you heard me bang on a lot about this last year, and I stand by the principles of it. But I also told you in the lead up to the last Queensland election what the game was going to be. Close the borders to win an election, tank the economy, and then blame the federal government for the results of the decisions that you make as the paranoid Premier. And guess what happened today? Exactly what I predicted would happen last year. Annastacia Palaszczuk now says it's the federal government that needs to step in and help the struggling tourism industry, as if it was the federal government who closed the state border to Greater Sydney or the entire country. Here's what she said today.
I honestly think there is a case to be made to the federal government that perhaps Scott Morrison and the federal government could look at those industries that are doing it tough, and maybe JobKeeper does need to be extended for those industries.
Now, sure, the majority of people will probably buy this BS, but you watch this show, so you're not a mushroom, so I won't be feeding you that diet of garbage. How many times has the Prime Minister tried to get the state premiers to agree to what qualifies as the number of cases to close a border, and then how quickly those borders can reopen? Yet, premiers like the Queensland Premier, the South Australian Premier, the Western Australian Premier, just refuse to sign up to the most basic standards. And because of the unlimited power which has been handed and will be wielded just as wildly in 2021 as it was last year to the health bureaucracy, things can close down at a moment's notice. Remember, in Victoria, there's still months of the blank cheque legislation. That would mean that Chairman Dan could put the whole joint into lockdown for however long he wants. The cost of which, of course, is that many small businesses go to the wall. Now, this matters because we have to live in a country where, if you would like to take the risk of starting a business, then the government should not do anything to exacerbate that risk. And if they do, then they are the ones responsible for paying for it. So in this case, it's the Queensland government who should be paying the money to the people who are directly affected by the decisions of the Queensland government. JobKeeper has worked because, yes, we were cut off from being able to interact with the rest of the world via international tourism, international students, and those sorts of issues. But people don't care. Well, other people don't care. We do, I do, you do. And it's the politicians who benefit from this shutdown of industry that should be the ones who actually have to pay for it.